Now, obviously, Brant is the new character to pull for right now, but if you have pulls left over, I would highly recommend pulling for CHANGLI. Not only because she works really well with Brant, but in my opinion, she is the most versatile character to have in the game. She also has some unique combat roles, first up being a main damage dealer with having higher resonance skill damage, but on outro, she also buffs fusion and resonance liberation damage. And here are all the materials you're going to need to get her up to max level. For what skills to prioritize upgrading first on CHANGLI, her resonance skill and Forte Circuit are definitely at the top, then I do your resonance liberation, then your intro skill, and then lastly your normal attack. And here are all the materials you're going to need to upgrade these skills. For CHANGLI's weapon options, I would highly recommend pulling for her signature weapon, Blazing Brilliance. If you decide not to pull for a weapon, the standard 5-star Emerald of Genesis is a decent option as well. If you don't have any 5-star sword options, don't worry, there are a couple of 4-star ones you can use. If you want to use her as a main DPS, use 5-piece Molten Rift. Now there's two ways to set this up. The first way is by having your main 4 cost be the new Nightmare Inferno Rider with either crit rate or crit damage as the main stat. Your 2 3-cost echoes should either have fusion damage or one with attack and one with fusion, and your 2 1-cost should be attack percentage. The second way is by having 2 4-cost echoes, the main one still being the Nightmare Inferno Rider, but the second one being the normal Inferno Rider, each with either crit rate or crit damage as the main stat, and then for your 3 1-cost echoes, attack percentage. Now if you want to use CHANGLI as a sub DPS instead of a main DPS, use 5-piece Moonlit Clouds. At your 4-cost echo, you're going to want to use the Impermanence Heron with either crit rate or crit damage as the main stat. With your 2 3-cost echoes, you're looking for fusion damage, and for your 2 1-cost, attack percentage. For your echo substats for both the main and the sub DPS options, we're looking for crit rate and crit damage, resonance skill, attack percentage, and then lastly some energy regen and then flat attack. Now going over CHANGLI's best team options, let's first talk about the free-to-play team with Chixia and Baija or Verena as your healer. Or if you want to go for a little more of a hot swap team, you could use either Spectro or Havoc Rover. If you wanted the double DPS team, pairing CHANGLI with Brant and Shorekeeper is obviously going to be good. And you could also throw in another DPS character potentially, somebody like Sanhua. For CHANGLI's premium teams, using her as a main DPS, pairing her up with Zezha and Shorekeeper is going to be great. Or if you want to replace Zezha with somebody like Yinlin, for example, considering she also buffs resonance liberation damage. And lastly, some CHANGLI quick swap teams, pairing her up with Lumi and Shorekeeper is going to be good. And a more premium option, if you want to use CHANGLI as a sub DPS, pairing her up with Zhang Liao and Shorekeeper is good. The last thing I want to talk about is CHANGLI's Resonance Chain and whether it's worth getting multiple copies of her. Overall, I'd say her S2 is a must-have. After that, 3 and 4 are okay, and S5 and S6 are very good. With S2 giving a 25% crit rate bump for 8 seconds and being able to reproc it just by gaining Enflamement is pretty much just free extra damage. Fortunately and unfortunately, I'm guaranteed on my next character that I want to pull for, so I am still debating on whether I want to pull for Brant or not.